Hey guys, welcome back. Today we've got the New York Rangers recap and 2023-24 season preview for you. Um, yeah, I mean it was pretty disappointing end to the season for the Rangers, but the lead up to it was relatively solid. They finished ninth overall, uh, 47 wins, 107 points on the season. They obviously finished third in their division, which meant they met New Jersey Devils in the first round of the playoffs. But throughout the season, it was, pretty much same old Rangers. Shesterkin's numbers were down technically, but he was still godlike. And just the same beast he's always been. Adam Fox again had another unbelievable season, Norris worthy, really. I think, if Fox was to win the Norris over Carlson, I would 100% agree with that, and I believe Jaden would also agree. Uh, just off to the side. Um, and then yeah, Mika being Mika, Panarin being Panarin. They're just solid players, and they had yet another solid season. They were the fourth least in goals conceded. They were the fifth best goal differential, and yeah, they had such a huge trade deadline as well, getting in the likes of Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko. They were geared up for an absolute Stanley Cup run, and I honestly thought they were going to take the Stanley Cup. With that side that they had, it was just potent. But unfortunately, it came to an end after a just ridiculously solid first two games of the first round against the Devils, where they just walloped them up. I think it was 5-1, 5-1. And they were 2-0 up in the series. Everyone was saying a game over, series done. Devils are too young and inexperienced, and Rangers are just too experienced and just absolutely making a mockery of them. Wasn't to be. They lose in game seven, and honestly, it was pretty disappointing. 4-0. I think Kreider's come out since saying, it's basically been just churning in their belly since the loss, and they reckon they'll come into this new season with a chip on their shoulder. And I can't blame them, because when you were as geared up to win the cup as they were, to be kicked out in the first round by a team that, albeit had an unbelievable season, to be kicked out by your crosstown rivals and in the first round, and it's their first playoff, really their first playoff, proper playoff run since 2012 when they lost that cup. It's got to hurt a bit. So yeah, unfortunately, a great season and what was really looking like a potential to be a cup, came crashing, burning, yeah, all too quickly for the Rangers. So yeah, unfortunately, wasn't to be, but they've still got one hell of a side, and to take you through that side, I'll pass on to Jaden.
Alrighty, so we are under the salary cap, got just over 2 mil left. Granted, we have to sign Lafreniere, so pretty much no salary cap. Forwards, you got Kreider, Zibanejad, and Kako on the first line here. I don't know why cap friendly really have him on the first line in regards to Kako. I feel like he'll probably be on the second or third, but it is what it is. Panarin, Trocheck, and Wheeler. Wheeler brought in on that 800,000. Great bargain for the amount of points he put up last year. Lafreniere yet to sign. Hedel and Goudreau on the third. VZ, Benino, and Pitlick on the fourth. So great depth on the fourth there with VZ and Benino with the addition there. I really like their games. Defenders, Lindgren, Fox, Miller, Truba, Gustafsson, and Schneider. Gustafsson also just brought in. He did play with Laviolette last year. So a little bit of chemistry and know-how between those two. Goalies, obviously you got Shesterkin. Then they brought in Quick. So that is my big question mark. Is basically you're completely relying on Shesterkin here. Scratches, Belzile, Jones. Not really sure how to pronounce this man's name, but I'll just call it Leshy. Lesh- Harper and Mackey. Yeah, Leshy. I can't remember how many games he's played, but he hasn't scored a point in the NHL, and so I'm not expecting to see too much of him unless he develops. But yeah, notable losses: Gribby, Carpenter, Gettinger, Kalinuk, Lockwood, Mikola, Tarasenko, and obviously Kane in question marks just because of or asterisk because they're free agent. because of the cap situation, it doesn't really look like they could sign him. So most likely on the way out. So interesting side. No dead cap really, but we're at the cap limit. Some pretty expensive contracts. Very cheap on the right wing. The most expensive, 3.6 mil. But yeah, look, good team. Great power play last year, 7th in the league. Penalty kill, 13th. Goals for, 12th, and goals against, 4th. So all above the 16 mark. Obviously, the goals against elite level at 4th there, and basically the power play was elite as well. So honestly, not many things you need to improve on. Obviously, they lose a little bit in those notable losses, but really, it's just a matter of putting it back together and maybe giving the young kids a better step and more ice time, in a sense, with Kako and Lafreniere.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Mikola, Tarasenko, and Kane were only a part of the Rangers for what, the last 20 games, 25 games of the home and away season. So, um, it's not like they were a big reason that they were where they were. Like, they weren't the reason they were sitting third in the Metro. The team that they had here somewhat was the team that got them there. So, although it does, I actually think Mikola is one of the bigger losses out of the Tarasenko and Kane. I feel like they can cover Kane and Tarasenko. The Mikola losing him, like he's just that defense. Like I loved it when he was Tarasenko trade because I thought that's exactly what this team needs. They need a big defensive defenseman. Um, and yeah, so yeah, I kind of feel like that's the loss there. Tarasenko, as great as he is, and Kane, as good as he is, they're both injury prone and at the end of their, well, Kane more so at the end of their sort of tenures. So, yeah, I still think this team's ridiculously strong, even though they couldn't re-sign, well, they can re-sign Kane, but it looks very unlikely. I still think this side's very strong. The only other thing that I have heard is the potential of moving on Barclay Goodrow. So there was some rumours circulating around them wanting to clear him to get that 3.6 mil to potentially look at either re-signing Kane or doing something else
So
with
they
it.
just completely hate their right wing, do they?
Yeah.
That's all I see there.
They must do. But again, I don't think you're getting rid of. I don't think too many teams are going to take on Barclay Good. I know it's only 3.6 mil, but I don't think he's worth 3.6 mil, and he's definitely not worth it for the next 4 or 5 seasons. I think 4 seasons he's got left. Um, so I think that's going to be a difficult contract to move. I think they're just going to have to live with it. But yeah, I mean, what else can you say about this side? Like you're looking at Lafreniere on the third line, who is being, touted as a massive bust, and he had 16 goals last season playing third line minutes,
with
and
with basically no power play. He was 7th ranked
no
in power
power.
play for forwards, which is
Yeah,
second line power play, which we all know they get like 30 seconds at best, and you go,
like
yeah.
he if he's given some time, I think it would be quite similar. If you could get them on a line with Zibanejad, centering Zibanejad, just seeing what they can produce and seeing like give them the new head coach having Lavalette, if he can give them the freedom to just play the way that they play, who knows how good those two can be? Because they were number one and two draft picks overall for a reason. So I would love to see them just given some freedom, because it could be what takes this team to the next level. Because there's not too much to improve on. Like Kreider had another fantastic season after his, yeah, it wasn't quite 50 goals, but he still put up 36 or something, which is still a fantastic feat. Zibanejad put up just shy of 40. Kako had 18 goals, one of his best seasons so far. Panarin was Panarin. Trocheck was serviceable. They've got Blake Wheeler in, which, other than, the whole locker room cancer rumors, if Wheeler can be good and, put up the similar amount of points he did last year of 55, that's a fantastic pickup for $800,000. Like, that's insane. You look at those top three lines outside of probably Barclay Goodrow. That is eight very very solid hockey players on that forward line. And then you throw in the fact that they've got Adam Fox, who's just you know a Norris contender pretty much every season, one of the best
Well,
defensemen in
arguably the
the league.
best alongside McCarr. Like that's the
Oh,
that's the quality. It's them
uh,
two, 1 and 2,
and
basically.
and the thing is that the thing I love about Fox is that he doesn't just put up points. He can defend. He can actually defend,
Mm.
and it's the problem with some of the offensive defensemen. I know you've got a big problem with Carlson because he's a glorified right winger, basically.
Hmm.
Whereas it's not that case with Fox. He can do both. Like he can defend like he's supposed to, and he can jump in on the offense, put up massive points as you've seen. So yeah, 100%. They've got one of the best in the league, mixed with Lindgren, Miller, and Truba, who is just an absolute wrecking ball. And then you got young Braden Schneider coming pretty solid himself, and Gustafsson is a serviceable defender. As much as I would probably rather Mikkola on that lineup instead, but still cheap, serviceable defender. And then you've got the if he's not the best goaltender in the league, he's probably the second best behind Vasilevsky. Shesterkin's just a god. Like he's godlike. I'm not a Rangers fan. Like we're not Rangers fans, but my god, that guy is
I'm
he's
a
a god.
Shesterkin fan. I'm a Fox
Oh,
fan, and all that.
oh,
Uh,
exactly. Like there's several players on here that I'm just like, yeah, love and respect to bits because they are absolutely phenomenal players. So it's hard to see these guys taking a backward step, right? Like they have to be top three in the Metro again, and yeah, short of them getting kicked out in the first round by either a Carolina or a New Jersey, um, that they'll be strong and they'll be in contention yet again for another season.
Yeah. Well, one thing they did good was staying out of penalty box. They were the fourth best in discipline, with least amount of penalty minutes. So that bodes well. And even though they had a good PK, you don't have to be on it often. That it bodes well. It means you draw more penalties, which you go on the power play more, and they had a decent power play. I would like to see Lafreniere play on the first line power play. Honestly, I'd like to see Lafreniere play on first line, just in general. If you either throw Panarin, Lafreniere, and Zibanejad together, or whatever, a little mixer. But I would like to see Lafreniere up there, because I feel like he would thrive. Um, that's just my opinion. You can see what you want with that. Let us know down below if you think that he should be on the first line or he should be playing on second or third, and he should be getting more power play. But yeah, let us know in the comments. But I do think he should be in on the first line. Obviously, it probably goes into his contract negotiations as well, maybe what he's going to get. But oh, I don't see them improving from last year. But they were still good before they made the additions of Tarasenko and Kane. But I think the biggest change, obviously, is bringing a different head coach in Laviolette. It's hard to be fired after you make it to the second round and go out in Game 7. But the big teams are the big teams. So, and they bring in a good coach. They bring in Gustafsson, who played under him, and Laviolette was a fan of him. So there's a little bit of chemistry there. So hopefully that means the decor can do well. I know there's a little up in arms with how he dealt with some youngsters at Washington. Uh, so that was question marks for Lafreniere and Carco and whatnot. But he has had good history with like Carolina and Nashville youngsters, and I feel like he will do good for them. I think he's honestly a fan of them in regards to their style and gameplay anyway. So that is my big question mark though, is how much ice time do the kid line basically get? You know, they bring in Wheeler. He's on the second line. You could throw him anywhere really, but I would prefer to see Lafreniere get more, develop more, than having a 1 year UFA and Blake Wheeler getting his Black Wheeler on there for some reason. But
We'll just we'll just change that.
no, it's
But
Black. It's Black Wheeler.
yeah, we're having
But
some technical
it's
difficulties.
technical difficulty. But no, it's yeah. So I would just like to see the kids get more ice time than some of the old veterans. and that's just my opinion. It helps develop them so you can keep this run going, not for just this year, but next year and whatnot. You got Shesterkin for another 2 years. You want to make sure you can be competitive this year and next year, and not hampering their development. That is my biggest thing. I feel like Laviolette is a good choice to do this, but if he doesn't, I could see Rangers fans, having a little temper tantrum because their players just aren't getting utilized the best, whereas other teams have developed
Yeah.
better internally. And
Well, when
yeah,
you look at their team, like I don't blame Rangers fans at all for being a little bit disgruntled because, as I said in the recap, they were geared for a run. Like that team was phenomenal, and to be kicked out in the first round by your crosstown rivals and first time back in the playoffs basically for them after being 2-0 up was just atrocious. So, yeah, like I said, that chip on their shoulder they're going to come in with, I do believe heavily that it's going to be those kids that are going to drag them to the next level. Yep, these Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, all the rest of that, they're going to play well. Like they're always going to play well, but I don't think they're going to go to the next level. They're where they're at. Like they're not.
they're already
Yeah,
elite. Like you can't go much more elite, especially when you're
well,
getting older.
exactly
They
right.
maybe even start declining. That's the worry you got to start thinking about.
Well, yeah, exactly. So they're either going to start on the decline rather than the incline. So it's where that the likes of Lafreniere taking that next step, Kako taking that next step, Heedle taking that next step. Like those three players, I feel like you're seeing improvements from them, right? Kako had probably his best season yet, and was quite consistent. Lafreniere, as much hate as he gets, I think was really good, and Heedle was so underrated. If it wasn't for the fact that Trocheck and Mika Zibanejad were there, like he wouldn't be a third line center. He's probably getting much more game time than 14 minutes on ice average. So, um, yeah, they've got the young talent there. They just need, and it's Rangers have been terrible at developing young talent over the years. Like they're just known for it. I mean, I'm saying that as they've got Adam Fox, who technically was traded to them, but they did develop him. Um, but yeah, they don't usually get it right. So the likes of Braden Schneider down on that third line defense, who's coming up and looking really, really solid, and those three kids up in the forwards, if they can do right and Lavalette can do some good things with them and actually give them the freedom to play, it could be what takes this team to the next level because there is no other reason to think that they're not going to be. They're going to be a playoff team. Straight, like you can't argue that. Like this team, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, I'd be shocked. Like I'd probably hit the floor because this team is just it's stacked throughout. Like their top two lines are fantastic. Their third line is solid, and that fourth line is a probably one of the better fourth lines going around. Like it's not incredible, but it's a good fourth line. It's not like you're sitting there going, "Oh, that's a
Yeah,
fourth line that's going to cost us games." That you can't trust on the ice. You can trust all of those players on the ice whenever. And it's the same with that defense. And then the only concern, which I think you mentioned also off air, was if Shesterkin goes down, right? Like
yeah. Worst case scenario,
Jonathan Quick.
injury for half the season or whatnot. You got to rely on Quick,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like that's your main man, Quick. And these days he's probably a 900 or subpar 900 goaltender. And yeah, like you're gonna probably have to play him 20 games as well. So you're hoping to probably get 50% of those as wins. But yeah, if Shostakin goes down, it's almost GG. It somewhat feels
Well,
like.
he had to play 58 games last season,
Mm,
like and and it was pretty evident because I know Halak sort of pulled it together a little bit towards the end there, but there was a period where anytime he played, he was terrible
mm.
and the Rangers just couldn't win. So it was like all right, that's not good. Like,
Hmm.
just and it just meant that they were depending on Shesterkin even more because they couldn't have faith in Halak. So yeah, again, I don't think they brought a better option in. Like, I think Quick at his best was much better than Halak,
Hmm.
but Quick's not at his best anymore. He hasn't been at his best for a long time. So yeah, there's nothing to say that Shesterkin's gonna get injured, but again, it's goaltenders, those little niggle injuries that happen and that all of a sudden lead to a long time on the sidelines. That's probably the one area that would concern me with this side. Outside of that, fantastic side. No reason they can't go on another massive run. No reason they can't, you know, contend for the cup. I know it's going to be hard because you've got what are the Canes going to do, because they should be just as strong as ever. New Jersey are going to be just as strong, if not stronger. And then you got a couple of the others in the Metro coming up as well. And then you've got that Atlantic division, which has the three, Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo coming through. So it is still pretty tough in the East, which is the other thing you've got to probably point out is that, yeah, they got kicked out in the first round, but you got kicked out in one of the toughest conferences, hockey's probably seen in a while. Like, that was, everyone was going on about for
Well,
the whole
it
season
was
how strong
stacked.
the East was. It was stacked. Like, Florida finished eighth in the East and made the Cup final, for Christ's sakes. That was the
Yeah.
team
E-
representing the East.
Every series was a
Uh,
coin flip, honestly. You could literally flip a coin, and the odds were pretty much in that favor because it really was stacked. And nobody expected New Jersey to be what they were before the start of the season, and then nobody expected New York Rangers to add what they did at their trade deadline. So they only got more stacked as it went on, and yeah, so bowing out in the second is nothing to sniff at. It's not how where they bowed out; it's how they bowed out. Is Game 7 was atrocious. I think it's one of the worst games I've watched from a team where there was just no energy, no nothing from the Rangers side of things, and that's why I'd be angry as a fan. Is like Game 7, and they were just bad, like very very bad.
yeah,
And
and
like
you know,
I'm a Devils fan. Like Game 6, I'm just gonna call blatant bad refing. I'm just gonna say it. Like it's almost cheating, but it was cheating. Game 6, yeah, and they did there was a bit of bad refing in Game 7 at the start of the game, and Rangers couldn't capitalize on that. There was zero momentum. Adam Fox played pretty terrible as well. There was a lot of bad turnovers. So it's not the fact they bowed out, and it's not the fact they bowed out to New Jersey. It's just how they bowed out. There was no heart, and
yeah,
you
2-0
need
up
heart.
in the 2-0 up in the series after, and commandingly, right? Like,
Yeah.
they
Eh,
and it's not just they were 2-0 up, they were 2-0 up away. So
yeah.
2-0 up at the Rock. They were coming home, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, shit, we
Mm,
we 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 crapped the bed. It's 2-all, and now we're 3-2 down. They win the game 6, as you said, but then game 7 they just didn't rock up,
mm,
and it was just insane. And the fact that they were so close to being 3-0 up in that series as well, so it was a wasted opportunity
yeah.
from New York, and definitely not how they wrote it up,
And I felt
getting
sorry for
kicked out in the
Shesterkin
first
because
round.
that guy was the only
Yeah,
player that played with heart throughout that whole series. And you could feel it, especially in that Game 7. There's like the guy was playing with heart, and everyone else, like they just weren't moving their legs. They just weren't doing like playing NHL standard really. And
and that was the disappointing thing for him, right? Even in that game 7, he stood on his head, and what else can he do? Like, at the end of it, he's pretty
mm,
much just put his arm up and said,
yeah.
I did everything that I could. I stood on my
Mhm.
head. I made some of the most insane saves.
No, I
Um,
could have seen him in another reality that just like, hey, trade me. After that, just be like, I'm the only one that tried. So I'm glad that he stayed because he's one of the best goalies. It's a big franchise. This and the Rangers brings in a lot of fans. So I'm glad that
he
he
can win a
stayed.
cup.
Oh,
They
he
can win a cup, man.
they
A
he,
hundred
he could
percent.
win a cup on his own, but he just needs a little help. A little help.
Yeah,
It's like a Hellebuck situation. Like dudes could win a cup. You just need a little help. And look, they've still got a solid side, great defense. like we said, one of the best goaltenders. The top nine is absolutely immense, and even Vizzy and Benino are really good additions. I do worry about their extra depth in regards to scratches, like Tyler Pitlick on the right there, but then Belzai's alright, but then Jones, Leshin, Harper, Mackey, I'm not too sold on them in perspective. So if they do get injuries down the line, how well will these fill-ins play? That is my other little harp, but that's really all it is, and you can get around that with a couple moves here or there, and that's really all they got to do. But they got to go for it now because of the contracts they have. There's a lot of big money contracts here expiring in 3+ years, so got to go for it
Oh,
for over
100%.
over the next 3 years, even longer, because some of them expire in 29, 30. So they got a long window if they play the cards right and develop Lafreniere and Kako and Heedle properly and keep some good depth. That's what you need to look here. And they haven't really sold the farm. Like they've sold a lot of picks, but they still kept a first. They got the Perot this year, so still more depth into that draft pool. So the prospect pool can develop into something else, which is good. They haven't completely sold the farm.
Yeah, and the only concern I've probably got for them is the cap trouble that they could find themselves in. They're probably lucky that Lafreniere and Capo Caco haven't really taken
Yeah,
off too much because you don't have to pay them as much. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's still going to be an issue, right? Because you got Lafreniere still to sign, Kako re-sign next season, Lindgren's next season, Miller's the season after that, and you don't have too many big contracts coming out before then, so they're going to really want that. They're going to really want that cap to sort of increase to ensure that they can keep these young players and continue, being a strong franchise dynasty for years.
yeah. I don't have much more to add. The only thing is that top three in the Metro is what they should be aiming for. Anything less is a failure. As long as they make the playoffs, even if you get a wild card, it's slightly a failure. But hey, you're in the playoffs. You bought your ticket. So, all right. As long as they make the playoffs, that's all you're looking for. They got Laviolette. He does really good. I think only 5 out of the 18 times he's missed playoffs. 3 of those were with Carolina, and the one that he made it, he won the cup. So, hey, he didn't make it last year, so you might be looking at a nice deep run. He's played in a lot of playoffs, so he brings that experience. And this team has a lot of playoff experience now, so no more excuses. Go win the cup. You do have a hard Eastern Conference to go through, but your team's stacked for it. One of the best defenders, one of the best goalies. No excuses. Just go and win it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, he did it. He did it in his first season with Philly, so there's no reason he can't do it in his first
Mm.
season with the Rangers to make the cup final. So yeah, 100%. It's going to be another good year for the Rangers. And I guess for Rangers fans' sakes, hopefully it's not a heartbreaking first round exit for you.
All right. Leave a like on the video. Comment below what you think of the Rangers, how they go in the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, and how Laviolette goes with developing the youngsters. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave all notifications on, and until next time, we'll catch you guys.
See you guys.